Welcome everybody. My name is Marina from the Eloy team in Germany, and I'm very happy to welcome you tonight to this session. Carmen?
Yes, my name is Carmen Stadelhofer, head of Eloy, and I'm very happy to join you this evening, coming from different countries and languages as far as I can see. And I hope we will have a wonderful evening today with a very interesting theme, the theme of tales, but as every time we will have some poems and music. And so, by another way, we will joined this evening by two ladies, Christiane Dech and Helen Kramlich. They are teachers of music and they are wonderful women. And last Sunday, we had a big concert in Ulm from Ukrainians and Germans. The motto had been and is in Ulm together. And they played with piano and harp. And the harp to transfer the harp to Christiane at her home directly to play together this evening. It's too hard because the harp is very big, you will see. But they allowed us to make known a little video we made in the frame of this music evening last week, and they will play Spagnoletta. It's from the opera from Capiscore from Michael Pretorius. It's a Baroque, very nice music piece. And so thanks to Christiane Dech, piano, and Helen Kramlich to give us the permission to let you join. So thanks to both, and it was, I think, a very soft and nice introduction to this evening. And now we are going on to hear about tales, story tales, and about existing tales, the same tale in different countries. And Marina, it's up to you now.
Yes, so tonight, after some consideration, we decided we wanted to focus on Cinderella, which is a fairy tale that I think most of you know, all of you know. There are different versions, there are different adaptations also in the countries. And this is why we wanted to have a look at this fairy tale tonight, have a look at Charles Perrault's version from 1697, and after that have a look at the Grimm version. In Germany it's called Aschenputtel, and we wanted to make a little reading. So we have prepared some part of the text, which we will have a look at. We will read through the Perrault version, some parts, and after that the Grimm version. And after that, you from Nottingham will tell us a little bit about the comparison, about the differences in the two versions that we have. So first, we will have Svetla, who will read the Bulgarian part. So we have don't have time to read, of course, the whole fairy tale, but we will start with part in the middle and then go to the end and then have a little comparison about the Perrault version, the Grimm version, and then we can discuss a little bit which one you know, and we will see with the presentation by you what are the differences. So Leo, you can just take Svetla out of the channel for this, and then I would like to ask Svetla to start with the reading. And after that, Gerhard will go on with French, and after that, Tatjana with Serbian, and then we'll go on to the Grimm version. But first, Cinderella by Charles Perrault.
So, I'm starting. И така да започнем. Видяла кръстницата й, че плаче и попитала какво е станало. Само ако можех, хлипала девойката, но силите й свършили да изрече останалото и изпухнала в безутешен плач. Тогава кръстницата й, която била фея, довършила вместо нея. Само ако можеше да идеш на бала, това ли искаше да кажеш? Да, прошепнала Пепеляшка с въздишка. Добре, казала кръстницата, бъди добро момиче и аз ще измисля как да й отидеш. После завела Пепеляшка в кухнята и поръчала. Изтичай в градината и ми донеси една тиква. Пепеляшка веднага отишла в градината и откъснала най-хубавата тиква, която успяла да намери. Занесла я на кръстницата си, но хич не можела да си представи как тиквата ще й помогне да иде на бала. Феята издълбала до кората, замахнала с вълшебната си пръчица и тя се превърнала в чудно красива каляска, украсена с чисто злато. После отишла до капана и там намерила 6 живи мишки. Заповядала на Пепеляшка да открехне лекичко вратичката и докато едно след друго се измъквали навън с вълшебната си пръчка, докоснала всяка от мишлетата. В миг те се превърнали в 6 изпъстрени в сиво кончета, които заедно направили чудесен впряг. Но им трябвал кучияш и Пепеляшка казала: ще ида да проверя другия капан. Ако се е хванал някой плъх, може да го превърнем в кучияш. Права си, отвърнала кръстницата, иди да провериш. Пепеляшка дотичала с капана вътре. You can scroll down. That was.
Yes, now Gerhard will go on in French.
Cendrillon, lui, apporta la ratière, où il y avait 3 gros rats. La fée en prit d'un d'entre les 3, à cause de sa maîtresse Barbe. Et une fois touché, il fut changé en un gros cocher qui avait une des plus belles moustaches qu'on a jamais vues. Ensuite, elle lui dit: va dans le jardin, tu y trouveras 6 lézards derrière l'arrosoir, apporte-les-moi. Cendrillon ne les a pas plus tôt apportés que la marraine les changea en 6 laquais qui montèrent aussitôt derrière la carrosse avec leurs habits chamarrés et qui s'y tinrent attachés, comme s'ils n'eussent fait autre chose toute leur vie. La fée dit alors à Cendrillon: eh bien, voilà de quoi aller au bal. N'es-tu pas bien aise? Oui, mais est-ce que j'irai comme cela avec mes vilains habits? Sa marraine ne fit que le toucher avec sa baguette, et en même temps, ses habits furent changés en des habits de drap d'or, d'argent, tout chamarrés de pierreries. Elle lui donna ensuite une paire de pantoufles de verre le plus joli du monde. Quand Cendrillon fut ainsi préparé, elle monta en carrosse. Mais sa marraine lui recommanda avec toute chose de ne pas passer minuit, l'avertissant que si elle demeurait au bal au moment d'avantage, son carrosse redeviendrait citrouille, ses cheveux des souris, ses laquais des lézards, et que ses vieux habits reprendraient leur première forme. De sorte qu'elle entendit sonner le premier coup de minuit lorsque elle ne croyait pas qu'il fût encore 11 heures. Elle se leva et s'enfuit aussi légèrement corée, fait une biche. La prince la suivit, mais il ne put l'attraper. Elle laissa tomber une de ses pantoufles de verre que le prince ramassa bien soigneusement. Merci.
Thank you. Tatjana?
Yes. Iz palate je poslao svoje najpouzdanije savjetnike, koji su počeli da pokušavaju nad princezama, zatim vojvotkinjama i svim dvorima, ali uzalud. Zatim je doneta dvema sestrama, koje su svaka učinile sve što je mogla da zabode nogu u papuču, ali nijedna sestra nije uspela da to uradi. Pepeljuga, koja je sve ovo videla i poznavala svoju papuču, rekla im je smejući se, da vidim da li mi neće stati. Njene sestre su prasnule u smeh i počele da je zadirkuju. Gospodin koji je poslat da proba papuču ozbiljno je pogledao Pepeljugu i smatrajući je veoma zgodnom, rekao je da je u redu da ona pokuša i da ima naređenje da pusti svaku devojku da proba. Zamolio je Pepeljugu da sedne i stavivši joj papuču na nogu, otkrio je da se veoma lako nastavlja i namestio je kao da je od voska. Za prepašćenje njenih dveju sestara bilo je preterano veliko, ali ipak mnogo veće kada je Pepeljuga izvukla iz džepa drugu papuču i stavila je na nogu. Tada je došla njena kuma koja je svojim štapićem dotakla Pepeljuginu odeću. Učinila je bogatijom i veličanstvenijom od svih koje je imala ranije. Sada su njene dve sestre otkrile da je ona fina, lepa dama koju su videle na balu. Bacili su se pred njene noge kako bi molili za pomilovanje, za svo zlostavljenje koje su joj naneli. Pepeljuga ih je uzela i dok ih je grlila, plakala je da im je oprostila svim svojim srcem i želela da je uvek vole. Ona je kočijom dovezena do mladog princa, onako obučena. Smatrao ju je šarmantnijom nego ikad i nekoliko dana kasnije oženio ju je. Pepeljuga, koja nije bila ništa manje dobra nego lepa, dala je dvema sestrama sobe u palati i istog dana ih je spojila sa dva velika gospodara dvora.
Okay, thank you very much. So now we had a little part of the Peru version, and now we will go on with the Grimm version, the same part, to have a comparison of the differences, which after that, of course, we will have a closer look at, but I think you will already see some of the parts that are different. And I would like to ask you, Basha, you can start with the first part. Leo will share the screen of the Grimm version, and then we will read it in English, some part in German, and another part in Romanian.
Grimm's Fairy Tales, Cinderella. Yes, a bit bigger. Thank you. On the third day, when the parents and the stepchildren had set off, Cinderella went again to her mother's grave and said to the tree, little tree, shake over me, that silver and gold may come down and cover me." Then the bird cast down a dress, the like of which had never been seen for splendor and brilliancy, and slippers that were of gold. And when she appeared in this dress at the feast, nobody knew what to say for wonderment. The prince danced with her alone, and if anyone else asked her, he answered, "She is my partner." And when it was evening, Cinderella wanted to go home, and the prince was about to go with her, when she ran past him so quickly that he could not follow her. But he had laid a plan and caused all the steps to be spread with pitch, so that as she rushed down them, the left shoe of the maiden remained sticking in it. The prince picked it up and saw that it was of gold and very small and slender. The next morning, he went to the father and told him that none should be his bride save the one whose foot the golden shoe should fit. Then the two sisters were very glad because they had pretty feet. The eldest went to her room to try on the shoe, and her mother stood by, but she could not get her great toe into it, for the shoe was too small. Then her mother handed her a knife and said, "Cut off the toe, for when you are queen, you will never have to go on foot." So the girl cut off her toe, squeezed her foot into the shoe, concealed the pain, and went down to the prince.
Thank you. Dann nahm sie als seine Braut aufs Pferd und ritt mit ihr fort. Sie mussten aber an dem Grabe vorbei. Da saßen die zwei Täubchen auf dem Haselbäumchen und riefen: Ruckdick-guck, Ruckdick-guck, Blut ist im Schuck, der Schuck ist zu klein, die rechte Braut sitzt noch daheim. Da blickte er auf ihren Fuß und sah, wie das Blut herausquoll. Er wendete sein Pferd um, brachte die falsche Braut wieder nach Hause und sagte, das wäre nicht die rechte. Die andere Schwester sollte den Schuh anziehen. Da ging diese in die Kammer und kam mit den Zehen glücklich in den Schuh, aber die Ferse war zu groß. Da reichte ihr die Mutter ein Messer und sprach: Hau ein Stück von der Ferse ab. Wenn du Königin bist, brauchst du nicht mehr zu Fuß gehen. Das Mädchen hieb ein Stück von der Ferse ab, zwängte den Fuß in den Schuh, verbiss den Schmerz und ging heraus zum Königssohn. Dann nahm er sie als seine Braut aufs Pferd und ritt mit ihr fort. Als sie an dem Haselbäumchen vorbeikamen, saßen die zwei Täubchen darauf und riefen: Huckdick-guck, Huckdick-guck, Blut ist im Schuck, der Schuck ist zu klein, die rechte Braut sitzt noch daheim. Er blickte nieder auf ihren Fuß und sah, wie das Blut aus dem Schuh quoll und an den weißen Strümpfen ganz rot heraufgestiegen war. Da wendete er sein Pferd und brachte die falsche Braut wieder nach Hause. Das ist auch nicht die rechte, sprach er. Habt ihr keine andere Tochter?
Nu, nu, a spus bărbatul. Soția mea a lăsat în urmă doar o biată cenușăreasă micuță și pipernicită. Este imposibil ca ea să fie mireasa. Dar fiul regelui a ordonat să fie trimisă după ea. Însă mama a spus: O, nu, este mult prea murdară, nu aș putea să o las să fie văzută. Dar el a vrut să fie adusă și astfel cenușăreasa a trebuit să apară. Mai întâi s-a spălat bine pe față și pe mâini, apoi a intrat și a făcut o reverență prințului, care i-a întins pantoful de aur. Apoi s-a așezat pe scăunel și a scos piciorul din pantoful greu de lemn și l-a introdus în cel de aur, care i s-a potrivit perfect. Când s-a ridicat în picioare, iar prințul a privit-o în față, a recunoscut-o din nou pe frumoasa domnișoară care dansase cu el și a strigat: Aceasta e mireasa potrivită! Mama vitregă și cele două surori au rămas uluite și au pălit de furie. Dar el a pus-o pe cenușăreasa înaintea lui pe cal și a plecat. Și pe când treceau pe lângă tufișul de aluniș, cei doi porumbei albi au strigat: Iată-i, iată-i! Nu are sânge pe pantof! Pantoful nu era prea mic! Mireasa potrivită e ea până la urmă! Și după ce au strigat astfel, au venit în zbor după ele și s-au cocoțat pe umerii cenușăresei, una în dreapta, cealaltă în stânga, și așa au rămas. Iar când s-a hotărât să aibă loc nunta ei cu prințul, au venit și falsele surori, surorile vitrege, sperând să obțină favorul și să ia parte la festivități. Așa că în timp ce cortejul nupțial se îndrepta spre biserică, cea mai în vârstă mergea în partea dreaptă, iar cea mai tânără în stânga. Porumbeii alegeau câte un ochi de la fiecare dintre ele. La întoarcere, cel mai în vârstă mergea în partea stângă, iar cel mai tânăr în dreapta, iar porumbeii au ales celălalt ochi al fiecăruia dintre ei. Și astfel au fost osândiți să urbească pentru tot restul zilelor din cauza răutății și a minciunii lor.
Thank you very much. So, very nice. We had some impression in different languages of the two versions. And you may already have seen that they are quite different at some parts. And this is why I would like to ask you now to share his presentation and to give us a little insight on those differences that he worked out in the fairy tale.
Okay, let's see how.
Just a moment. I would say it was so wonderful to hear you speaking in all your national languages and about a tale we all know well, but not with the same content. And I'm very curious what you discovered in your study of these tales in different versions.
Yes, I thought it was wonderful to hear all the different languages as well. This is my attempt to make a comparison between them. And here we go. When they go to the prince's ball or dance, held perhaps when the prince is old enough to choose a life partner. In one version, it says it was the king who set up the dance for his son. But look at the difference here. The brothers Grimm say Cinderella cries because she wants to go to the ball with her stepsisters and her father, but her stepmother refuses and sets her an impossible task. Whereas Perrault simply says, yeah, she was in tears. If we then look at the intervention of magic or of a good influence, we find the Brothers Grimm has much more detail. Cinderella visits her mother's grave and asks the hazel tree which she has planted there to shake down silver and gold on her. One of the two birds that live on the tree, it's not clear whether they are doves or pigeons, but doves are very close to pigeons, the same family. And white birds, white doves, are often a sign of peace. And for the Brothers Grimm, they give her golden slippers. Whereas if we go across to Perrault, we see that the fairy godmother, who secretly watches over Cinderella, says that if she's a good girl, you shall go to the ball. Now, in the Brothers Grimm, although it's not the section that we've been looking at, very early on in the story, the emphasis from Cinderella's mother is that if she is a good girl, she will be looked after. In the Perrault version, then, the fairy godmother takes her into a secret room. And then there is a lot of detail about how they create the coach and turn the mice into horses and all the rest of it. But Cinderella's rags are turned into fine clothes with glass slippers. So two different versions of the slippers. And all these things disappear at midnight. Midnight's the magical hour when things change, and in this case, change back. At the feast, it's again, there's a difference. In the Brothers Grimm, everybody wonders who she is. The prince takes Cinderella as his partner for the dances, and it seems that these dances go on for 3 nights in the Brothers Grimm. Whereas with Perrault, the king's son did nothing but look at her, falling in love with a beautiful person with the glass slippers. And in Perrault, she hurries away at midnight and drops a glass slipper. But as far as Perrault is concerned, there's only one dance, one ball, if you like. The Brothers Grimm then talk about the prince's plan to stop Cinderella running away so he can catch her or catch up with her by covering the steps from the dance hall with pitch, which is tar. But all he catches is a dainty golden slipper. But he's determined to have the girl with the dainty feet as his wife. At this point in Perrault, the prince doesn't have a plan, and all that happens is Cinderella drops one of her glass slippers when she rushes out. Now, again, there is a difference between the Brothers Grimm and Perrault. In the morning after the dance, the prince, apparently in Pero, has no clue to which family the beautiful girl belongs. The prince sends out his trusted advisors to all the princesses and duchesses and members of the court to try on the glass slipper. Eventually, an advisor comes to the two stepsisters' house. Whereas with the brothers Grimm, it seems that the prince goes to the stepsisters' father straight away to ask them to try on the golden slipper. And I have just checked the English version of the brothers Grimm story, in the story in full, not the excerpts that we have here. And it's quite clear that the prince goes to the stepsister's father and not to his father. Now things get a bit black. In the brothers Grimm, as we've just heard, both the stepsisters try on golden slippers, but it doesn't fit. And at the mother's suggestion, one cuts off her big toe to make it fit. The other cuts off her heel. It's all sort of self-inflicted injury, mutilation. The prince doesn't see the deception and puts each stepsister, in turn on his horse to take her away. But it's the pigeons, or is it the doves? I think it's the doves, really, who represent the forces of good, perhaps, that point out from the hazel tree that the prince has been deceived because there's blood on the stepsister's shoes. The Pero version is very, very different. The two stepsisters each did all they could to get the glass slipper onto their feet, but it was in vain. And the story sort of stops at that point. And they laugh at Cinderella, who also asks to try on the glass slipper. So now we come to the point where Cinderella is unveiled as actually the very beautiful person who attended the ball. The prince asks in the Brothers Grimm story if there are other daughters in the house. The father is reluctant in the Brothers Grimm story because she's so dirty, but the prince insisted. So this is royal power expecting something to happen. And Cinderella then washes herself, curtsies to the prince. The prince offers her the golden shoe, which of course fits her perfectly. And the prince recognizes her. And when they go past the hazel tree, the two white pigeons, two white doves, say she is the right bride. So the forces of good, if you like, now acknowledge that she is the right person to become the prince's bride. Pero version is very different. The prince's advisor looks at Cinderella and says, well, he has orders to let every girl try on the glass slipper. The advisor asks Cinderella to sit down, try on the glass slipper, which fits her foot easily. And Cinderella then pulls the other glass slipper out of her clothes. And the godmother then turns her into a beautiful princess again. But the prince hasn't seen her yet. And we'll come to that in a moment. The stepmothers and the sisters' responses to Cinderella fitting the slipper, golden or glass, to her foot is treated very differently by the Brothers Grimm and by Pero. The Brothers Grimm say the stepmother and the two sisters are thunderstruck, grew pale with anger. In Pero, however, the stepsisters beg for forgiveness. They throw themselves at the feet of Cinderella and beg pardon for all the ill treatment they've given her. And notice here that Cinderella then embraces them and said that she forgave them and asked them always to love her. And I just wonder whether this is an indication of a Christian virtue. Carmen said earlier on that there are moralities through these stories. And, is this an attempt to say, well, there is Christian virtue in here, Cinderella forgiving them? The Brothers Grimm don't deal with that at all. Let's move on. Instead, before and at the wedding feast, this is all doesn't quite fit together very well. But before the wedding feast, in the Pero version, Cinderella is taken by a carriage to the young prince, presumably by the advisor, though it's not made clear. And the prince sees her and then thinks her more charming than ever and decides to marry her. in the Brothers Grimm version, the stepsisters, having been absolutely furious about Cinderella fitting the golden slippers to her feet, now try to curry favor with her, to join in the festivities, to become part of the wedding procession. But the two pigeons peck their eyes out and leave them blind for life. Now, one of the unpleasant things about doves is they're known to be very aggressive. If you put them in a close confinement, like a cage, they will fight each other to the death. If we go back to Perrault, there's a very interesting twist at the end of it. Cinderella now gives her two stepsisters rooms in the palace and found two great lords of the court who would be willing to marry them. So what are we seeing here? Are we seeing revenge or forgiveness? Or is with Cinderella, it's actually very astute political activity to say, well, I'll keep these nasty sisters, stepsisters, close to me. They can marry some great lords and I'll keep my watchful eye on them. Well, we don't know. That isn't part of the story, but that's the end of the comparison. I hope that was okay for you guys.
Yes, it was very interesting. Thank you for making that comparison for us, for having a look at that, because of course there are some major differences. And I see that Gerhard already has raised his hand to comment or question or...
No, comments.
Yeah.
The first comment, there is a third version, which is La Cenerentola di Rossini. And this is an amalgamation, a mix between both versions. And the remark always I would like to make is that between Perrault and Grimm are 120 years.
Yes.
And Perrault probably wrote this for the court of Louis XIV.
Yes.
That means his audience was completely different. And it was important because, as far as I know, it was short after a revolt against the king when he published that.
I've got in here.
Right.
And so I think, and Grimm's audience was completely different because he wrote this for a civilian audience, for people who buy his books. And this is why I think the versions must be different. And besides this, the roots for both, the sources, both are hidden. For example, I know that Giovanni Francesco Straparola also wrote fairy tales, but they are lost. And he is in the 15th and 16th century in Venice, but we know that Perrault knew him.
Mm.
So I think always the fairy tales are always adapted to the audience, to the children, to adult people, to adult listeners. I think this is so important for our understanding fairy tales.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very interesting remark or important remark, because of course, this is also why we thought it would be interesting to have a look at them, because as Violetta, for example, pointed out in her email, the Cinderella version has Romanian folklore in it, you know, some touch that is Romanian. And so we really would like to have also now your input about how are the version. Do you have comments on the versions that you have read? Are they the same? Are there others that you have that you know? What are the differences, for example, in the Bulgarian version? Are there some little things that say, okay, this is something that was adapted to now also Bulgarian audience, Bulgarian people, or for the Romanian or the Serbian one? I would like to have your input, your comments on those two versions. Which do you know better? Which have you read in your country? Who wants to comment? I can just say that, of course, we know the Aschenputtel, the Grimm version, of course. but which of course through Disney a lot know, or I mean the version of Disney that we know from the movies or from the comics that were made, they are much more adapted to Perrault's version, only also because of the fairy godmother that visits her and that helps her with the dress and everything. This is the version that was, I think, was popularized a lot through Disney. So I don't know if how was it in your countries? Violetta, do you want to comment on the Romanian version?
Sorry, I had a terrible flu. And it's quite difficult to present coherently an idea. I will try, however, to speak. I think that some of these fairy tales acquired a national ethos. I have several stories in my mind. And I would like to give some example where this national ethos is very evident. For example, we have in Romanian fairy tales patrimonium. We have capra cu trei iezi, the goat with 3 kids, or the bear tricked by the fox, or a story that I like very much is the Brave Tailor from Grimm. And I want to say that all these specificities, I think, is in accordance with each generation perceive these fairy tales. For example, some have morals, others are just romantic, or just funny. I can't say which difference specifically we have in Romanian variant from Cinderella. Even in my childhood, I think I read different varieties of this fairy tales. I think it depends of each ear, if I could say, how it is perceived by the reader and by the child finally. That's all.
Yes, and that's also an important part. Of course, also if we have a look at how fairy tales are adapted in modern movies or something like that, because things change as well, and people say, okay, we don't want to show Cinderella as this girl who has to be saved by a man, for example. So this is also something that changes in time because of how our world and our mindset changed through time. Carmen.
It's very interesting for me. In my childhood, all tales had been presented as a resume of a collection of tales from Brüder Grimm. And the story had been that they went from village to village and they asked people and so on, and they collected all these tales. And later, the studies make known that they didn't go from village to village, but they asked people to come to them the two brothers, and they wrote the stories they heard from them, but it was published by Gebrüder Grimm. And it was quite later that I discovered that all these subjects of the tales had a long story, and that different interpretation also of the same center of the story. The center is Cinderella or some other, but the development of these tales are different. And now Hook and also Violetta said it's depending from to whom it's aimed, and it's depending in which culture it is presented and so on. For me, the Grimm version is cruel. For children, terrible. The end, the two sisters are blamed for what they had done, but nevertheless, it's a horrible story. In Perrault's version, it's like Mickey Mouse, and I don't know what, it's romantic, it's all are happy and all are together, even if the sisters and the whole family had been so horrible to Aschenputtel, to Cinderella. And so it's quite interesting to see and to compare and what is behind and why the development had been so different.
Are there any other comments?
May I tell you something about Cinderella in Romanian? I think that we have not a Romanian version of these fairy tales. We had a traduction of a collection of fairy tales of Brother Grimm's, and we know Cinderella from this origin, but also we know the Perrault version, and we love more this. And I do not remember effectively the version of my childhood, but for my children and my grandchildren, Cinderella is a cartoon movie of Disney, so romantic and nice and happy. So this is what I think about.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, that's the Disney version, of course, is very popular, and I as well grew up with the Disney movies, and they're always singing and dancing, and everybody is happy in the end, which is not the case here in the Grimm version, as we have seen. Gerhard?
Yes, thank you. So what I would add something what Carmen mentioned. Brüder Grimm, particularly, they knew Perrault perfectly, and some of the stories they took from them, and well, they adjusted and somehow. But there are other stories they collected from an old woman who lived close to Kassel, and she was, and this is a really important point, she was a storyteller. That means there is an oral tradition. And this is something I would like to know from our friends from Romania and Bulgaria. Do you have such oral traditions still, or is everything written now? Because if something is written, it's difficult to change. But as long as it is oral, you can change it. And it depends on the person who tells the story.
Yeah, that's true. Someone always adds a personal touch if they retell it. Does anybody want to comment? Do you mostly read written?
Svetla.
Мога и аз да кажа две думи. При нас
Kannst du Svetla kurz aus dem Channel holen?
Да.
Leo, dann kann
Yes.
übersetzen.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. Ivanka wanted to say something regarding the Bulgarian version of the fairy tales.
Искам да споделя, че при нас
I
в
want to
Карлово,
share with you
в
that with us in
библиотеката,
Karlovo, in the
провеждаме
library,
такива дни на
we
книгата, маратон
make
на
such a
четенето,
days of the books, and it's like a marathon of reading.
Което е през пролетта.
Which one we held in springtime?
А през есента провеждаме есенни дни на книгата.
And in autumn we held autumn days of the books.
И винаги правим представяния на автори за децата и при нас по-разпространен вариант е на приказката на Шарл Перо.
And we always make readings for the children and presenting fairy tales as well. So among our auditory, is more popular the version of Charles Perrault.
Да, това беше.
That's what I wanted to say. And me personally, I can add also some regarding me, because I was a big fan of the fairy tales since I was a little child. And I still remember as a kid where I had my boat books from the Brother Grimm fairy tales, and as well the fairy tales from Charles Perrault. They were illustrated from different authors. Of course, my favorite part were the illustrations with the very nice looking princesses and all these parts. But in general, in Bulgaria, the second version of Brother Grimm with the pigeons, this is more popular in Bulgarian through the Czech movie, which was called the Three Hazelnuts of Cinderella. So this version became very popular in Bulgaria when I was a child due to this movie. So the other one, maybe from Charles Perrault, was more popular within, but through this movie, through this Czech movie, it became also quite popular, the other version, which we see here from Brother Grimm.
Yes, thank you. That's right. We also know it. Drei Haselnüsse für Aschenbrödel. It's a Christmas movie.
Yeah, it's a Christmas movie, and it's called in Bulgaria Трите лешника на пепеляшка.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's very popular here.
Yeah. So you can transfer me back to the channel.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks to Ivanka as well for your comment. And now, if I look at the time, I would like to introduce our last contributor who is new to our sessions. It's Sofia from Odessa, Ukraine. And she will sing a song for us tonight, which I think will be a nice conclusion to this session. Sofia, welcome. Maybe you can just say a few words about what you will share with us tonight.
Good evening, I'm Zofia, and I'm going to sing a Ukrainian folk song for you. The song called Moon in the Sky. In the Ukrainian, it sounds like Місяць на небі. I chose this song because of the wonderful and beautiful melody, and I would like to say this song is about love, and I would say a lot of songs, a lot of Ukrainian folk songs are about love. So I hope that this song will very so yes. And what I wanted to say as well, I'm very glad to be here tonight, and it was very interesting for me to learn something about other languages and Thank you. So I start with the song. Місяць на небі, зіроньки сяють, тихо по морю човен пливе, в човні дівчина пісню співає, а козак чує, серденько мре, в човні дівчина пісню співає, а козак чує, серденько мре. Ця пісня мила, ця пісня люба, все про кохання, все про любов. Як ми любились, та й розійшлися, тепер навіки зійшлися знов. Як ми любились, та й розійшлися, тепер навіки зійшлися знов. Ой, очі, очі, очі дівочі, темні, як нічка, ясні, як день. Ви ж мене очі плакать навчили, де ж ви навчились зводить людей? Ви ж мене очі плакать навчили, де ж ви навчились зводить людей?
Thank you very much. That was very, very lovely. You have a really nice voice.
Yes, it was wonderful. Thank you, Sophia. This is a pity that we can't see each other in analog way and appreciating, but we can applaud or we can give a heart to her or to others when they are speaking and presenting something. So I think we will come to the end of this session. Thank you for staying with us this evening. It was very interesting to hear these fairy tales in different versions, but also to hear your voices and the sound of your voices in the tales. Thank you very much. And Hook, thank you for the presentation and the comparison. And I hope we can continue to know more of these tales and more of the culture behind. But it's not the overall culture, it's always the culture combined or related to some historical time and what has happened in this time. And we know all that some, how to say, some talks about the authors are not always the right one, that Brüder Grimm had been very important for Germany and all Europe, but that it was not the task and the effort and the success of only Brüder Grimm. It was a big story, and as Gerhard has said, it was one old woman in a village who knew a lot of tales, and she transferred a lot and to Grimm, and Grimm has the possibility to write them and so on. And I think in all our countries we have a lot of oral his culture and history, and it's nice to discover them, as we discovered a lot in the project Bodanek. So we can continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then I would say it was very nice that you were here, and we're looking forward to seeing you again in the next session, which will be in 2 weeks. And we would also like to invite you to a lecture on the 21st of November, where Jürgen Bocke from the Association Help Age will talk about the establishment of a World Convention for the Elderly. So see you soon. Have a good evening. And thanks to everybody who was involved tonight, and Leo for the technique, and of course to the translators. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Yes, thank you to all. And concerning this lecture, come in and let it know also to others, because the rights of elderly, it's a very important thing. We are getting older and older in all our countries, and it's not performed and it's not secured by the rights. So let us be informed to be able to be prepared for discussions in our countries. Thank you. And if you have some idea for intervention in this come together session or for lecture, please let us know. We are very open and very happy about your proposals. Bye-bye.